We live in a world where everybody's fast food, fast grab, fast fix, and we're all dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. I got to scroll on my phone. This thing's going off. I need to check this over here. So maybe start with being present with yourself, your heart, yourself, your space, and just trying to tune into, hey, what is that energy like?
There is no written script on how you have to have a relationship with God or with the energy around you.
You'll be amazed how what you think you thought was true or reality or whatever, how all of a sudden it isn't anything that you thought it was, and it's all because you were willing to change the way that you were seeing it. You and me and all of us are all water drops. And the ocean is spirit. It starts with awareness and it starts with intention, and I would say that the work is never done if you're still breathing air. I don't like the word push with spirituality, but I'm someone that grew up in an environment where, religion could be used as a weapon. I'm not the only one. So for me, initially, I know I'm an ordained minister now, and I have been for many, many, many years now. But initially for me, I'll be honest with you, my parents died when I was very young, and I didn't know if I believed in God or not. And, the God I was taught about from the teachers and the churches and things where I grew up in the South, it was like everybody was going to hell and lots of stuff there. So there's a lot of trauma there. So for me personally, it didn't start jumping right in. I had a lot of trauma there. And a lot of times people don't want to talk about spiritual trauma, but it was necessary for me. And first I had to just do like a general, one of those quiz things that you find online that talks about what your beliefs are. Start there. Start looking at yourself. There's no right or wrong here, you guys, but see where you resonate. See where you're aligned. There's a lot of ways to do it, but you're the only one that knows where you're at spiritually and what you connect with spiritually. And when you figure that out, get curious. My path isn't going to be the same as yours. If you have an opportunity to take the time to sit very still and to maybe do some deep breathing and to maybe do some visualization, some meditation, highly recommend it. I know at first it can be really weird if it's not something that you're familiar with, but there's a lot of different books and YouTube videos and lots of different ways for you to do it, but that's a good place to start. We live in a world where everybody's fast food, fast grab, fast fix, and we're all dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. I got to scroll on my phone. This thing's going off. I need to check this over here. So maybe start with being present with yourself, your heart, yourself, your space, and just trying to tune into, hey, what is that energy like? Why don't you just ask? Why don't you just open yourself? What is that energy of the divine? If I were going to experience it, I'm just going to sit here and be open to that. I'm going to breathe into that.
What's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Well, I would say religion has, a set of rules, usually a specific doctrine or book, types of teachings, right? A religion usually has specific, guidelines of how to do things, such as whether or not you can eat pork or whether or not you should wear a skirt when you go somewhere, or there's all these things. Whereas spirituality is our connection to the thing that's underneath the thing that all the religions are connected to.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I asked that because I feel like it's an important distinction to make. A lot of times when people want to dive deeper into their connection with the field, source, love, God, they have this blockage due to dogma. And I often have to tell people that those are two different things. They are similar, and one can go with the other, but they don't particularly have to. There is no written script on how you have to have a relationship with God or with the energy around you. Exactly like you said, simply by asking, you can start that journey, that path. It doesn't have to be some grandiose uh, plan that you have or anything. You could just start going. So when we're talking about this energy, the God, the force around us, I guess before we get there, what is our connection to that? Because we talk about the soul and the spirit, but what is the difference between a soul and a spirit, or are they the same thing?
So, first of all, before I answer that, you said something about how we have our dogmas and how we have our resistance. And I just want to point out that's an opportunity to question your dogmas.
Mhm.
It's an opportunity to question your resistance. And the benefit in that is you're never going to expand unless you do, because that's contraction, right? Those resistance, the dogma, the all the trauma, all the whatever it is, whatever ideas that we think we know about whatever that is, it's contraction. But when you second guess it and you question that, you're opening up the gate to expand. So I want to encourage people
Yeah.
to do that in your life. You're the only one that can do that. You'll be amazed how what you think you thought was true or reality or whatever, how all of a sudden it isn't anything that you thought it was. And it's all because you were willing to change the way that you are seeing it. So the difference between soul and spirit, there's a lot of different cultures and things throughout the world. But I would say if you're asking me how I relate to those words, I would say individually, the consciousness that has been with me throughout time since my spiritual birth that uh, retains the growth and memory that only I do is a drop. It's a drop of water. And you over there with all your vast knowledge, skill, and experience in your life or lifetimes, depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, you're also another water drop. And you and me and all of us are all water drops. And the ocean is spirit.
That I That's actually one of my favorite analogies when we think about the one one of my favorite analogies is pretty much the same thing. Our body itself is like a cup, and imagine that you go up to the ocean and you scoop up a cup of water. Well, now the soul is that water that's inside the cup of the body, but the ocean is the entire spirit. We all come from that ocean, but when we're born, our bodies go to the ocean, take a scoop of water out, and we carry that with us. Now, um, how well you put your intention onto that. Because I was gonna say as well, how well you keep it clean, but that's not really what I wanted to say. The amount of attention you put to that determines how much water you have towards the end of your cup, how clean that water is towards the end. But if you happen to get dirt or mud or decolor your water, there are plenty of processes in science that we purify our water through, just like there are plenty of processes that allow you to clean your soul or spirit. And I use the word clean purely symbolically, not that your one soul or spirit is dirty. So when we look at the spirit, our souls from that perspective, and we talk about it getting muddied throughout our journey in this life, how do we slowly start to clean that? How do we filter that through? How do we heal ourselves so that our body, the cup, doesn't fall apart?
Well, I would say it starts with awareness and it starts with intention. And I would say that the work is never done if you're still breathing air. because we live on this planet. So there's so many different ways that you can work on clearing your consciousness and clearing yourself. There's free form writing, which is, when you sit down with pen and paper and you just, whatever is in your head, you let it flow. You don't worry about punctuation or grammar or anything like that. You just let it go. And you do that for a good 45 minutes to an hour and do that on a regular basis. That's one way to keep some of the pipes clean. There are so many other ways to do it. I could give you like tens of hundreds of examples. I've done things where when I felt just emotionally terrible, visualize if that had a image, what would it look like? And it was like a black smoky type thing. So, I was in the bath and I would take a deep breath in and breathe in light and love. And then when I would breathe out, I'd imagine that smoky stuff, that bad energy that was bringing me down. It would just go into the water. And when I got done with the bath, it would go down the drain. There's so many, that's only two examples, but I would say that in my life, you use whatever you connect with at the time. So it depends on where I'm at and what I connect with and how I clear whatever it is that I'm clearing right there. But I absolutely recommend to clear, because we all have stuff coming into our field all the time. It's just part of
Yeah.
being on the planet.
Yeah, Dr. Young, you said something that I really want to point out. You talked about how the work itself is never really done as long as you draw breath. And I feel like that's very important to point out because a lot of times people will say that I've, I'm not saying that you can't get over the trauma. I'm saying that there's always something else. And it's not necessarily trauma, it's just increasing your awareness. As long as we're human, then we have more to clear with ourselves. So when we're talking about clearing said trauma, and I love your explanation about visualization, and I want to really dive into that. When we're talking about clearing not just trauma, but increasing our awareness. How does one visualize, as you said, the light coming into you and the darkness coming out? How do we use that visualization skill and technique in order to increase our awareness and to go further beyond to become or merge with our highest self?
It's about reps. It's about practice. So the visualization stuff, I started doing that stuff when I was 14 years old, and my father had been electrocuted on the job, and it was really traumatic. And I had a hard time being on the planet and in the world consciously. And so I kind of like just disappeared to this inner realm where I could create whatever I wanted and could bring my dad there and have a chat with him if I wanted to, right? And so there are books on this to help you develop that more, like creative visualization, things like that, that will help you to develop that skill. But that has been huge for me, even especially on the beginning of my particular journey in spirituality, in a very dark, thick, sticky world where it feels like tar to me. The earth to me feels like tar. Um, and a minister that introduced me to, where I am also a minister now, would say, I want you to just imagine that there's a bright, iridescent white light coming from, the highest place that you can see. It goes beyond, what you can see, and it comes down and it goes through the top of your head, and it goes through your body. It goes through all the cells in your body, and you can feel it. And as that light touches those cells, you feel yourself like, you take a breath and you relax, because that is part of who you are. That is the positive polarity of your beingness, right? So that light is charging you. It's rejuvenating you. It's reminding you of who you are as a spiritual being, as an energetic being having that human experience. And it's as simple as that.
I love that. I feel like you have the most calming voice. So when we're talking about this light as it permeates through our cells, I see you have the chakras behind you. Do what role, if any, do the chakras or energetic bundles, spirals of energy, wheels of energy? That's what chakra stands for. So, wheels of energy. What role does that play in this energy healing?
So that's a great question. So if you're following the Western conventional model, they're not going to talk about the things that I'm talking about. But, in my experience, we are multidimensional beings. And part of that is you have an energetic body. You have an electromagnetic field that we can now measure. Your heart has an electromagnetic field. Your brain has its own electromagnetic field. And yes, you have a system, these chakras, which are those, they're wheels of energy, and they are connected to all aspects of being human. Each of the different ones has like a different part of your body, so it's associated with different things. Like the red is associated with your bowels and letting go and being grounded and things like that. And then your orange, your sacral, is connected to like creativity and lust sometimes and things like that, creation. And your yellow, it's in your abdominal area. That's your sacral chakra, and that's connected to your personal power and being empowered. And your and I'll have a point to this in a minute, but your green is connected to your heart chakra, which connects us all to one another, right? Through our one heart. Your blue is the throat chakra. So communicating, and if you were like one of those people that grew up being told that you should be seen and not heard, then this might be a little underactive, right? And then you've got your third eye chakra here, where that's like our ability to see spiritually. It's the part of us that's intuitive. And then your crown chakra, which sits at the top of your head, which is like the door to the soul, where you can really connect to the greater aspects of yourself. So how does that relate to somebody's health and well-being? Well, these wheels of energy sit right at the place these organs are. And when your organs get sick, it usually doesn't start in your organs. It's usually on the outer layers of your being first. So it's usually in your energetic field before it gets all the way down to making your organs actually feel those symptoms. So why is that empowering? Well, because if you can clear it from there, if you can use balancing techniques with sound therapy and light therapy and magnetic therapy and energetic therapy, there's a lot of different types. That's a whole other thing. Then you less likely to ever get to the place where you're nauseous, right? So maybe you've got some imbalance of not being powerful in your life. You weren't very empowered, and people just kind of told you to shut up and be quiet. So maybe your middle one, your sacral, not your sacral chakra, but your solar plexus, the yellow, it's a little bit slower. It's not working as well as it could be. And maybe the one for your throat too, because you've just been suppressing your thoughts your whole life. You didn't ever want to say what you thought. So it's just another way to peel back the onion of your layers of beingness, right? And you don't have to. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. You don't have to consider that as part of your health. But what I would say is, what's the harm in that? If you can potentially create more balance and more health for yourself, then what's the harm in considering something that you never thought of before?
Why do you think in Western culture we don't look at really what most of the rest of the world looks at, like traditional Chinese medicine, the Vedic practices? Why in Western medicine we don't look at the energy field so closely?
It's just, if you look at historically the development of the Western medical system, you can really, it makes a lot more sense when you see how, when we started off, there was a school for naturopathy, there was a natural medicine school, and they stomped it on down and said that's not the way, and the other one grew and it overpowered, and that's what's available. But you're absolutely correct that the rest of the world does include all these other things. Um, there's a whole generation of us right now, I'm a member of them, that we're trying to transform healthcare. We really want people to have that whole health model. And so stay tuned. But why do they do that? They're taught to do that. They're taught to look for disease, right? So the Western medical model, if you think of health as, okay, a spectrum, 0 being 100% healthy, like newborn baby, no problems, absolutely perfect, and 100% being so critically ill, you're dead. You're dying. At 99, you got 1% left and you're gone. Western medicine works from the 80% to the 100%. So when you go to the doctor because you're having symptoms, you're dizzy, you're having heart palpitations, maybe you're having things happen, you go to the ER, something's wrong, they check to see if you're in that 80 to 100% critical level. And if they find that, no, you're not in that 80 to 100% critical level, they send you home. And then you're like, well, geez, I guess it's all in my head. There must be something wrong with me because I swear I was having something go on, but they said everything's fine. And then everybody feels crazy and they don't know how to trust their own bodies. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast, right? So it's just set up that way. It's just set up that way. And when you go to the doctor because you have symptoms and you go to the doctor because you're sick, you become dependent on the doctor for your health. In other countries all over the world, you don't go to the doctor when you're sick. The doctor keeps you healthy. You go to the doctor to stay well. And when you're sick, you don't pay your doctor because they didn't keep you healthy. So I'm trying to do that second type of healthcare.
Yeah. How do we start listening to our bodies? Because I 100% agree with you. People have gotten so disconnected with themselves that they wait until a limb is basically falling off and then they'll see a decision. How do we start reconnecting with ourselves? Say, okay, I think there's something a little bit off. And now that might be in my spiritual body, and we can um, really address it well before it gets internalized in one of our organs.
We got to be present and be aware and be with ourselves. And especially, I don't know about other cultures because I've been in the United States my whole life, except for when I've traveled. But I know here that we are never taught to consider ourselves. If anything, we're taught to work ourselves to death for the benefit of the government and other people. We're not taught to respect our bodies. We're not taught how to keep our bodies healthy. We're not taught, you know what I'm saying here. So for me, this journey was especially hard because like many other people, I grew up when I had things wrong. My parents told me that was wrong. Like when I said my stomach hurts, they said, no, it doesn't. When I said, oh, my head hurts so bad, they said, you're a hypochondriac. And when you're growing up and that's the constant signal, that every time that you describe your bodily experience, you're being told that it's in your head, it creates an adult that doesn't know how to trust the signals that are coming from the body, right? That's hard, but it's not impossible. So it all starts with paying attention to that first spark. The more you give it your attention, the more it wants you to give it its attention. Our bodies are here as a tool for us to use on this planet. We don't know how to use it. I know that. But there is a consciousness that functions out of that body that wants to work with us. It wants to cooperate with us. So for me, what does that look like on the day-to-day? I have a conversation with that part of me. I say, hey, what do we need today? What do you think about that? Before we do this medical intervention, how do you feel about that? Is that scary? You don't like that very much. Okay, I feel yucky about that. We're not going to do that. Or, hey, we like that. And it's not all about restricting either. It's not like, oh, you can't have ice cream anymore because it's just bad for you. Now, don't let your inner child run you over. Don't let it just eat ice cream all day long and make you sick. Get it on the right track. But when you're doing really well, hey, we did really good this week. Look at that. We had an apple every day. Let's have an ice cream. And I know it seems really silly, but you learn to trust yourself in each one of those intentional interactions where you're working together with yourself. You know, you should constantly be evaluating and having these conversations inside of you, right? How are we feeling today? What do we need? How does that feel? What sounds good, right? You're the only one that can be in your body.
I 100% agree with that. Being able to have that conversation with yourself on a daily basis and really, instead of being your own worst enemy, become your own best friend. And also utilizing discernment on whether or not my body simply just needed rest, or maybe I just been laying down way too long and doom scrolling. So utilizing that discernment and understanding that, as you said, we need to be able to coach our inner child, but also be the adult that our inner child needed and take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and you know, I've needed to become my own all things. I've needed to become my own dad inside of myself, my own mom inside of myself, my own sister sometimes inside of myself. Sure, I know how to do my own worst enemy, but learning how to play all the other roles that I felt like I didn't have in my life, that was an interesting job. But I was able to grow myself up, right? And now I have a really beautiful relationship, and I can call myself out. And when my significant other says, you know, you're really being a punk, instead of fighting back and saying, no, I'm not, I'm able to go, hey, what way am I being a punk and why am I doing that? And I'm able to take the inventory, right? Because we can't make any change unless we're able to take our inventory and be like, you know what? You're right, babe. I was totally being a punk. And here's how I was being a punk. I was doing it this way and this way. And this is what I would like to do to make it better in this way and that way. You know, and I'm probably going to screw it up again. I'm going to be a punk again because I'm human, right?
So that holding yourself accountable and having the grace to not beat yourself up about it. Dr. Young, this has been truly wonderful. We only have a few minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience before we go?
Um, be loving with yourself. Be loving with the people around you. Keep in mind that we are each and every one of us a universe unto ourselves. We all have our entirely different belief system, experiences, relationships, connections with others. And you really have no idea what the person next to you has in their universe. You only have a reference point through your own. So I just want you to remember that and to be open to the growth and the potential that's available for you in your life. And many blessings. And thank you.
Thank you. And where can people find you?
You'll probably have my stuff in the show notes. I'm on all the social media platforms, Neurosynergy Health, or the website is neurosynergyhealth.com. But you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. There's a lot of freebies on my site, and I do a lot of free trainings as well.
Love that so much. Well, thank you, Dr. Young, for coming on. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Onion Soup. Please reach out if you have any further questions, and we will have all the information down in the notes below. As always, have a blessed rest of your day. Bye.
Open your mind and expand your consciousness. Welcome to Chakra Wonders, where style meets soul. Designed to uplift your energy and inspire your path to higher awareness. Every piece is a reflection of the cosmos and the power within you. Explore our collection and discover what resonates with your soul. Visit chakrawonders.com and step into conscious living.